It's a sign, isn't it? Cliff ahead.
Scientists say this month will be the world's hottest on record.
And there's all these warnings, cliff ahead, slow down, slow down.
The era of global warming has ended, the era of global boiling has arrived.
But actually, as you said, people are just walking blindly into a major problem.
The oceans have reached their hottest ever recorded temperature, another sign of the accelerating effects of climate change. The average daily global sea surface temperature...
I feel as though we're sleepwalking into climate change. We're still emitting carbon and sort of doing business as usual, and it makes me really worried about what's going to happen in the future. Living in Porthcawl, there doesn't seem to be any visible action on climate change within the community, and I don't notice much from the local authority. So I'm sort of going on a mission to find out what is going on and also how the community feel about climate change. My name's Ella. I work for Sustainable Wales as a local sustainable development coordinator. I've recently studied a Masters in Climate Change and I've just moved back to my hometown. So I really like living down in Porthcawl because obviously there's amazing beaches, great to live near the sea. I started my job at Sustainable Wales, I've got to know lots of people in the community. I think it's a really nice little thriving town. I've managed to get in contact with Max and Olivia, who are both studying environmental degrees, to see how they're feeling about climate change, and they're both from Porthcawl.
What specifically here do you notice with climate change? Like, what's the standout in Porthcawl that you can see?
Living here, right by the sea, I definitely see it as a threat to just the community here. But obviously there's the coastal defence which is in place, and that's sort of been like the almost USP of Porthcawl, like this is what they've invested in. But I realise that climate change is something that affects like every aspect of life. It's not just an environmental problem, it's a social problem, it's an economic problem, and it's really like multi-dimensional, and its consequences are as well.
The more I've learned about it, to be honest, the more it's made me worried about my future, because all I'm learning is that there's so much stuff going on at the moment and not enough is being done to tackle it. So it feels like every year I learn more and more about how we're not doing enough and that it is a threat to my future.
I just feel a bit lonely with what is lonely with the knowledge that I've got when you come back here, and there just doesn't seem to be enough oomph behind action, and when you can see it firsthand as well.
On a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest and 1 being the lowest, how concerned are you about climate change?
4. 5, actually, very concerned, yes.
5 being awesome.
It's a bit scary, knowing our future, but hopefully we can change that by all just coming together.
Oh, I'm probably different politics to you, but thank you.
Why are people not interested in having a conversation about climate?
The survival of our species has become a political football.
It's frustrating because the people that say no, you kind of want their opinions as well.
Yeah. Oh, I will get it.
How concerned are you about climate change?
I'm not.
Not concerned.
Because all the reasons they put forward are a load of rubbish.
What reasons are they that you find are rubbish?
Too many cars on the road, too many aeroplanes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I watch the news and you see these
fires, flooding, the ice cap melting.
And I think to myself, I don't think we can possibly deny it now.
And all these people that pontificate, you mustn't do this and you mustn't do that. And they fly all over the world and they go on ships.
It's just really frightening, especially not, I'm older, but I'm thinking about my grandchildren. What sort of world are they going to live in?
It's a load of nonsense. End of story.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, good, thank you.
I think obviously because I'm young and it's like
you can see your future and you're just worried about what's going to happen in the future. And then, yeah, just trying to trust people to make the change and help. But I think there's a lot more, obviously, that needs to be done. And the pace that it's happening maybe needs to be a bit faster, but hopefully.
How would you rank local action on climate change?
Zero. Zero, yeah.
Do you think local government are doing enough down here? Do you see any sort of government action? No.
Do you think like local government does anything about it?
Not really, I don't think so.
Do you think they should be?
Yeah, I think it's a big thing that they should do.
There is action locally. I mean, just from a personal point of view, there's a lot of us who go picking litter off the beach in Coney and we see the pollution, the plastic washing up. Whether or not there's enough action, probably not.
But I feel like everyone in the local area does like try and play their part, whether it's like helping out beach cleans or recycling and stuff like that. I feel like everyone is doing their best.
I don't think we can do a lot, can we? Like, we buy food that is in plastic packaging, we put it in a recycling bin, we all have to have cars and our heating on. What can we do?
Yeah.
You know, if every single family in the UK tried to stop global warming, it's just, we're not doing a lot, I don't think.
What do you think stands in the way of like actually being able to make a change when it comes to climate change?
Just work, isn't it? Like the steel works. Obviously, if that was to get, away, we could obviously, that'd be a big part of making a change. But obviously, people need jobs, and we can't just take that away from people.
So do you think like responsibility lies with the public, or would you say it's like higher?
Well, I mean, you can do it. You can try your best to do it on your own, but you need like more people to start it. So
that's it.
It needs to go on the priority list for all leaders at whatever level they are, really, right from local through to international.
Well, yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah,
nice to speak to you.
Nice to speak to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for speaking to us. Thank you.
Yeah, did it make you feel optimistic or was it a good experience?
It was nice to talk to people and hear what people said, and I think it did give me a positive feeling that we did talk to people who cared about it and thought that we needed to do something.
You talk to people and they have such a strong opinion, like, this is what I think, this is the truth, this is the fact, whatever. But then when you actually start talking about it and just engage with them, I think it's not like they command your opinion, but you begin to understand a bit more what creates that way of thinking. And those people that didn't want to talk to us, if we could find a way to communicate with them, even if it's not going up to them in the street or something, that would definitely be valuable.
I think a lot of people know about the climate crisis, and a lot of people probably do believe it is happening, but some people are just so maybe worried or scared or frightened about it that they just don't want to hear about it, and it's almost like, kind of sticking your head in the sand, like, no, I know it's bad, but I don't want to hear about it. And I think that starts to translate into like being expressed almost like as a hatred. I think that's why we can get sometimes we get those aggressive people that come over.
Like, we hear about the sort of catastrophe of sea level temperatures being really like the highest they've ever been, so it makes people just think, what's the point? But I guess it's trying to show how there is still a point, and I don't know how you get that through to people, that we still can do something about it and we can stop the worst.
A red weather warning has been issued by the Met Office for parts of England and Wales as Storm Unice approaches, the second major storm to hit the UK in 3 days.
Storm Unice is expected to produce dangerous conditions when winds will coincide with high tides.
I had a real concern that with the spring tide and the storm coming in, that waves would start lapping over onto Beach Road. I spoke to the local authority as my role as a town councillor at the time, and thankfully they brought sandbags down. Thankfully the incident never happened, the storm held back, and by the time it hit shore, the tide had aggressed quite well. So, but these are the real world impacts that we're seeing.
I think we've been lucky. I think we've been lucky that high tides haven't correlated with storm surges. I think we're lucky that extreme rainfall fell into a different catchment, not into Bridgend, if that makes sense. And as we move forward, I think it'd be increasing risk that we see these events.
Storm Dennis brought a month's worth of rain in just 48 hours.
This is the second weekend Wales has been battered by storms. We used to call it an occasional occurrence, but is this becoming the new norm?
We've had major flooding in recent years, and that's a devastating impact in terms of people's homes and livelihoods. So it is here, but that doesn't mean that we can't stop it getting worse, and that has to be at the top of everyone's agenda, because it will get a lot worse before it get better.
There's a certain amount of kind of alarming information really that is already out there that politicians, councils, agencies, all sorts of coastal managers should be thinking about as a priority really. Even relatively small amounts of sea level rise projected of 0.5 metre, are still significant regarding the Welsh coast and the global coast, because everything is built very, very close to the tidal limit. So there's a lot of financial implications of any sea level rise, which is pretty certain. But on top of that, there's potentially changes in storm surges. So storm surges have increased and they're continuing to increase through the century. So a 60 centimetre surge 30 years ago had a likelihood of 1 in 20 years. Well, now it has a likelihood of 1 in 10 years. And in the future, in 50 years, it might have a likelihood of 1 in 3 years. So the chances of it happening, that level is increasing.
So what are your feelings about the environment and climate change at the moment?
Trying to keep positive, I think, is really important. It's hard because things are locked in. We're going to experience climate change. Regardless, if everything stopped now, all the emissions stop now, we're going to continue to warm the environment. We continue to, you see things that we'll have increasing destabilization globally because of those really extreme temperatures. The pandemic showed our supply chains are really fragile in terms of being able to keep food on your shelves. So, potentially we could see a point where you've got a brand new supermarket in Porthcawl with not a lot on the shelves because of climate change at certain times of year. If that's impacting on producers, globally. Things that we need to do is adapt. We really need to adapt the environment, our communities. We need to undertake bespoke climate change risk assessments where we actually speaking to communities about what's important, what their impact, what their concerns are, and the interventions need to then have a value to people as well.
I would say that the UK is in a bit of a crisis. We've got a housing crisis, we've got a cost of living crisis, we've got a climate change crisis, and I don't think that the politicians today are getting the balance right, and that it affects everyone. It's a much bigger, wider problem than, specific problems to the UK, and we need to wake up to what's happening. It's urgent, so we need to start now.